In the headlines, the UWP's Roseau South Constituency Association surprised by Joshua Francis's plan to resign. The PSU leadership reports a record-breaking representation of its members in 2017. And St. Joseph residents to eventually have their very own community and emergency shelter. I am Andrea Levy with the Channel 5 News. Back to the details after this. Thank you for staying with us. First up, the resignation of Joshua Francis has come as a surprise to the United Workers' Party Roseau South Constituency Association. Iduna Jean-Baptiste has that story.
While Joshua Francis told Channel 5 News he would address the media at a later date, he pointed out that he was retiring from active partisan politics and would not engage in any politicking. He has not, however, given up his job as the parliamentary representative of the Roseau South constituency. Campaigners of Francis's election say they had no idea of his intent to walk out on the UWP.
Honestly, he didn't really tell us he's going to do that, but he done it on his own. But at the same time, when I heard that, I think I went to the office, but he wasn't there. I was feeling a kind of sad, and you know. So then I called the secretary, and then I explained to her, and she told me, yes, it's true, and this and that and that. But anyway, I keep thinking, wondering, but all of a sudden, and I myself, I feel sad. Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's his choice, so, I mean, he has his family to take care of. Actually, he's a lawyer, he has his work to do. And perhaps the politics self, for me, as I can see, the politics self, keeping him back from his work. Because he have to be sending cases back, and he has to be coming back and meet him, and so you know all this stuff. And remember, he has his family to take care of.
He says he has been getting reactions about Francis's resignation from both UWP and Labour Party supporters.
When I start walking through Newtown, I get a lot of flick back. It's like, oh, long they wanted him to step down so that they could win the seat, so that the seat could come back to Labour, and what and what and what. So some people keep asking me, who we think we're going to send next general election. So I tell them, I don't know. The person that will be coming have to be kind, friendly, have to be even better than Joshua. And they have to start working hard all now if they want to win back the seat. Because a lot of flickback is people are telling me, people on the other side are telling me, oh, if Joshua not there, they will give Labour their vote.
Joshua Francis announced his resignation to the UWP in a letter last week, describing his term in politics as very turbulent. The chairperson of the UWP's Roseau South Constituency Association declined to comment on the matter, while the vice chair could not be reached. Iduna Jean-Baptiste, Channel 5 News.
In other top stories, the largest trade union on island is closing the curtain on 2017, having recorded history in representation of its membership. Here again is Iduna Jean-Baptiste.
Dominica Public Service Union represents employees from both the public and private sectors. Its General Secretary, Thomas Later, says this year was a record-breaking year for the PSU. Government employees received 2 months' salary at the end of November. They will also benefit from a 3% salary increase, plus retroactive payment for July to October for their December salary.
This is the first time since we have been negotiating that we were able to get the sort of package that we got for public officers. And I must say that the reports or the feedback from them is that they are satisfied. As I said, other institutions, we were able to get some reasonable salary increases and other new conditions of employment. We were able to see the union membership growing.
Later considers that the PSU has transformed the way in which trade unions operate on island.
There are times when you have to understand that maybe you need to, maybe for a year or for a particular year, that is a recurrent salary increase may not be the best thing, but you look at other benefits, and in that case, that is just what we did. So it sort of cemented what I always believe in, that unions have to look at the way they, or review the way they normally do things, and you have to have new approaches. And that is exactly what was done in this situation. And the lesson for me in that is, when you're coming up with new things, you as the leader of the union or the executive of the union, you should not believe that you can just go ahead and do it, but from the very beginning you have to involve the members.
The PSU plans on implementing new initiatives in its strategic plan in 2018, recognizing that conditions of employment have deteriorated.
We are living at a time when conditions of employment are deteriorating, when some of the benefits that you have fought so hard to gain on behalf of members, that these things are being thrown out of the windows. It's even worse in the private sector. It's even worse in the private sector. For example, let's look at what happened after Hurricane Maria. I believe some employers have used the opportunity to really send people home, and some of them have not even gone through the correct procedure, do it the right way. But we have seen situations where people decide they want to join a union and they are threatened. So that is another example. It doesn't mean that it is not in the public sector. There are times when people usurp their authority, and instead of they doing things the normal way, they believe, well, they have the authority.
In other news, the people of St. Joseph can now look forward to having their very own community emergency shelter. Julian Morris has that story.
A contract was signed on Wednesday, signaling the rollout of the $2.34 million emergency shelter, which will double as a resource center. Member of Parliament for St. Joseph constituency, Kelva Darrow, says this facility forms part of government's vision to build climate-resilient infrastructure post-Hurricane Maria. Mr. Darrow says this project has been on the cards for a number of years. He says the idea came about after the collapse of the Marpin Dam in Layu in 2011, which seriously impacted the community.
Today I stand here as a proud Member of Parliament, knowing the importance of this project to the community of Layu, more so after the passage of Hurricane Maria. Presently, there is not a disaster or a resource center in the community of Layu, and I believe that this project will have significant benefits towards the residents of that community. In the initial stages, providing employment during the construction, and the contractor is here, and I'm sure that he will engage a number of the skilled people in the community of Layu on that project, and I'm saying that publicly, so that the contractor will employ as many persons from the community, as well as, when completed, provide an opportunity for hosting training and skill development sessions so as to advance the development of skills in that community. The facility will also be used for recreational purposes, and more importantly, or I should say most importantly, it will be used as a disaster shelter for the residents whenever disasters like hurricanes are on the way.
Mr. Darrow says government has already secured land in the old Layu housing scheme next to Glenda's Bar on the highway for the construction of this facility. The 9,456 square foot structure will be able to provide shelter for 150 people and will contain adequate washroom and laundry facilities and infirmary area, dormitory accommodation and catering area. Access ramps will also be included to facilitate the physically challenged members of the community. Meantime, the Minister for Public Works says lessons from Hurricane Maria show that we must build a more climate-resilient Dominica. She believes Layu's close proximity to the sea and the river make it more likely to suffer the ravages of natural disasters.
It is with this in mind that a few years ago, this proactive government identified and began design work on a number of infrastructure projects aimed at safeguarding life and property in the community of Layu. In short, our vision was to commence the building of a more climate-resilient community. And today, we are much closer to making this a reality with the signing of today's contract. Some of the projects in the pipeline to achieve this include the reconstruction of the York Valley Bridge, which was damaged in 2011. The government of the People's Republic of China once again showed their genuine friendship for the people of the Commonwealth of Dominica with the commitment to replace that bridge at no cost to us. As we are all aware, this project is nearing completion. In fact, the bridge was scheduled to be officially opened this month, but was delayed by the passing of Hurricane Maria. I am happy to share with you today that discussions are ongoing between the government of Dominica and the People's Republic of China so that work can resume shortly.
And the country's national employment program has exceeded its 2,000 mark despite the ravages of Hurricane Maria. The NEP was established in 2013 with the aim of helping an initial number of 300 Dominicans gain some form of employment while developing their skill set. Minister for Trade, Energy and Employment, Ian Douglas, told Channel 5 News that the number of NEP workers had actually grown following Hurricane Maria.
The figures have not gone down. We have not displaced anyone, with the only exception being that persons who were attached to the private sector on NEP. Those interns, if the private sector organizations where they were attached had suffered damage and have not been able to reopen, then they would still, of course, be out of a job, for want of a better term. Out of a job meaning that they would not receive a salary because they're not working from NEP, so they would not have received a salary. So, for example, persons like our mentors in the school program, after school program, would not have received a salary for the times that school remained closed because of the hurricane. But our numbers are basically still the same. We haven't laid off anybody particularly. And also, I must tell you that we have had to take on even additional persons because there are some international organizations like the UNDP who has Work for Cash program. So we've been able to pilot that in a number of constituencies that needed the extra work for purposes of cleaning up and getting the communities, back in shape after Hurricane Maria. Right now, we're about 2,284 persons right now, presently, on the NEP. And I would say there is a great demand for that figure to increase, but we cannot increase the figure because there is a budget that has been already approved by the Parliament for NEP. So we're trying to manage the numbers and to ensure that we keep within our budgetary figures as far as NEP is concerned.
The Honourable Minister pointed out that the cleanup and beautification crews of the NEP had been instrumental in restoring Dominica to an admirable level of cleanliness.
If you look around Dominica, you can see that there has been a remarkable improvement in the environment. The amount of debris that was all over the place as a result of the hurricane, the mud and the debris and stuff. I mean, in cleaning up the entire country and getting it to the stage where we are today, to the point where somebody come from overseas, they wouldn't even realize the impact on the environment that Maria had created as a result of the flooding and the mud and stuff. Of course, if you still look at the roofs and things, you see Maria. But the cleanliness of the country, you would almost not understand the remarkable improvement that have been achieved since Maria, and that our NEP interns on the ground in the various communities had a tremendous part to play. In Roseau, in the city of Roseau, NEP crew was like out, 24/7. We had to bring in other crew from the neighboring communities like Point Michel, the Roseau Valley, some from Canefield, Maho area, to augment the crew in Roseau to deal with the cleaning up. I, for my part, personally can say that the NEP in Portsmouth have done a remarkable job as far as bringing the tongue back to the cleanliness and the post-Maria conditions as far as the mud and the debris and the galvanized and all of that was concerned. So NEP has played a tremendous part in the recovery process around the country.
Minister Douglas says the National Employment Program will continue to play an important role in the socio-economic development of Dominica, especially as the country rebuilds in the wake of Hurricane Maria.
So, well, NEP was initially conceived to bring on about 300 persons. We up to 2,200 persons right now. So NEP is well established. NEP is right now a staple program within the government system. We will continue to manage the NEP, and NEP will continue to make its contribution towards the socio-economic development of Dominica. There are a lot of young people, and I say a lot of young people because not only the youth that are employed on the NEP, a lot of people seem to believe that our NEP interns that they see are only the NEPs. So a lot of people only believe that it is those who are involved in the beautification and cleanup around the country, especially in the communities, are the only NEP programs running. But we have interns in our schools, we have NEP interns at the hospital, we have NEP in private sector agencies like the Aid Bank, the telecommunications, the supermarkets. I mean, you have NEPs all over Dominica in every single various economic activities being employed and making their contribution. And so, like I say, NEP will continue to grow from strength to strength as the economy continues to get stronger, as we continue to recover in a post-Hurricane Maria period. We will see our NEPs playing their part, making their contribution, and continuing with the whole Build Back Better concept in a more resilient way. I mean, we have tremendous work to be done in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. Roofs have to be covered, houses have to be rebuilt, I mean, homes have to be restored, infrastructure has to be reinstated. I mean, you still have a lot of electrification, really electrification to take place. You know, I mean, you name it, in every single walk of life in Dominica, you will see our interns making their contribution.
To end the news, the headlines again. The UWP's Roseville South Constituency Association surprised by Joshua Francis's plan to resign. The PSU leadership reports record-breaking representation of its members in 2017. And St. Joseph residents to eventually have their very own community and emergency shelter. Feel free to contact us at news@marpin2k4.com. You can also access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the entire production team, I am Andrea Louis, and to all of our viewers around the world, thank you so much for watching. Join us tomorrow.